Hello friends, I welcome you all to Tech Academy. Today we will be learning on how to create our first Angular application. To do that, we have to navigate to Visual Studio Code. How to get this installed? I have a previous edition wherein you can refer how to get this installed into your system. Once Visual Studio Code is installed, click on this icon. The editor will be opened. So now, before getting into Angular, let us try to understand what this studio all about. So here you can see when once you start the Visual Studio Code, right? The first thing is with welcome page, where it will ask you to create a new file, open a folder, or connect to any other sources or any other workspaces. Here you have minimize, maximize, and close icon. This is with respect to view to the sidebar, how it has to be viewed. Okay, and each one has its own importance. We'll discuss this in later part. Okay, now coming to the other things, other icons. Here we have explore. So this icon represents the folder path and folder structure. Here you can search for your files. Here we have Git repository where we can connect our application to Git, and here we have run and debug wherein we can debug our application, and here we have extensions to load some popular extensions with respect to Visual Studio Code. So extensions primarily enhance the visibility or usability of Visual Studio Code editor for each individual program that we write. For example, Python has its own extensions, Angular has its own extensions. The most common extension which people will be using is live server and prettifier. So prettifier helps us to color the brackets. For example, this is the normal code that we'll be writing, but with prettifier we can identify the code blocks which are these brackets are colored. So to get this installed, click on this prettifier and install. So once installing is completed, this extension will be added to your system. Now, the most important point that we have to learn about is how to create our first Angular application. To do that, see, for example, okay, to do that, for example, there are some common commands, okay, to create our application. To do, to create an application, we have to say ng new and then app name. Okay, so ng new app name is the command which will create our first application. As I told in previous session, this when we execute this command, the process of creating an application in the background is called as scaffolding of an application. Okay, once this application is scaffolded, let's see how it will be. But my biggest question is, where shall I write this command? Correct? So to do that, the first thing is we have to go or create a empty folder wherein we have to, for example, in this case, I'll be creating my application in C drive, hurry work area. I create a new folder, Angular apps. Within this, I want to create my first application. So I'll select this folder. Now, once I select this folder, Visual Studio is now uh, pointing to the path which I created. The very first question the studio will ask is, would you like to, do you trust this folder path? So just click on yes, I trust, and then let's start creating our first Angular application. Now I have to go to terminal and say new terminal. See, terminal is actually a PowerShell script command prompt where we can type our command, and the CLI is connected via this terminal and creates means executes the command that we have posted for. Let us try to create our first application by typing command ng new test app. Now there may be a system error saying that some of these scripts are not eligible or you may not have access to execute these commands. In that case, please enter this line and then copy this. I'll post this in my description, paste it here and execute. Once the execution is done, now navigate to ng new mpay app. Try to understand. Now the very first question Angular asks me is which style sheet format would you like to use? We can go with regular CSS or SASS, which is SCSS as well. Most importantly, we will be going with SCSS, which is Stacy Cascading Style Sheets. To navigate to that, press down arrow or up arrow to select your version of style sheets and then press enter. The very second question Angular asks is, would you like to have a server-side rendering and means some of the static information will be captured for pre-rendering. So type yes and then see the initialization of packages, this keyword, right, and creating some Angular JSON file paths, everything, right. This part is what we call as scaffolding. Now Angular is scaffolding my first application, which is my mpay app. Once the initializations of these components is done, let us see what Angular has created for me, and then we'll try to understand each component carefully. So now you can see the installation of all the packages is completed. Let us navigate to the tree what Angular has created for me. If I go to my mpay app, I can see node modules, src. This editor.config is for editor, and then gitignore is for git repository. Angular JSON, we will speak about it. Package log JSON, we'll speak. Readme, we will talk about these things. So as I told, there is some scaffolding happened, right? So this scaffolding, what actually this scaffolding did was it created some node underscore modules folder. Within this node underscore module folders, you can see some basic libraries are loaded for me. So these basic libraries are needed for Angular application to run. So this what happened when I'm doing a scaffolding process. To get any new packages also, those will be loaded into this node underscore modules. We will try to get some modules as part of our development process, and then we can see those packages are loaded into this node underscore modules. So this node underscore module is a node.js server initialization folder, which we have discussed previously. Now coming to the entry point of Angular, as we discussed, there should be one index.html page. As you can see, there is one index.html page, and rest of the file I am not having any of the HTML pages. All these are components. These are not HTML pages. Okay. Why I am telling is this will not have any body or any other content. It will directly starts with some styles that I'll be giving with. Okay. Now, if you go to index.html, we can see there is one HTML tag and body tag. And within the body tag, it says app root. So here is where all my components, this app component will be loaded here and into our DOM. So this is already available in my DOM object. This app root will be loaded by this HTML content, and within this app, if I am loading any other content, will be now either adding or modifying the actual page in the DOM. Okay, so this is how the Angular application looks like. Now coming to angular.json, so this is the configuration file for our Angular to run. So as I told, there is only one index page. The path of that index page is here. And if I want to add a global style sheet, here is where I have to mention the path. If there are any global scripts that I have to use, I can use here. So this is all about Angular configuration, and how to create our first Angular application. Next, we will see what is this app routes, what is this routes.tss, what are these configurations are, and what are Angular components, and as we discussed, what are decorators are, how to create directives, and so on and so forth. Till then, keep watching, share, like, and subscribe. Thank you, and Jai Hind.